Well, today we're going to talk about an aspect of Jesus' life that often goes ignored, one of those things that we don't often think about, and that is the humanity of Jesus. Now, don't blow past this one too quickly because it's very, very important. We often think about the divinity of Jesus, Jesus being God in human flesh, and that is true. Jesus was God in human flesh. We think about Jesus' sinlessness, that he never sinned, and it's true that Jesus never sinned. And although Jesus never committed a sin, his life was absent of perfection. He did not have a wrinkle-free life. He never committed a sin, but still his experience in life was absent of perfection. And the reason why I think it's important for us to talk about the humanity of Jesus is because understanding Jesus' humanity is the key to having a growing relationship with him. He did not have a wrinkle-free life. His life was absent of perfection. In fact, after Jesus began his ministry, he went back to his hometown of Nazareth and he went into the synagogue and he began to teach. You can find this in Matthew, the Gospel of Matthew. He began to teach, and when he arrived and he began to teach, the people said, whoa, who is that? Isn't that the carpenter's son? Isn't that Mary's son? Isn't that the illegitimate child? What's he doing? He was born in sin. He was born out of sin. What's he doing coming here to this town and lecturing us? We know his family. There's shame all over him. There's shame all over that family. And the text in Matthew says that the people, that the people rejected him, that the people scorned him, that the people were, it says, offended, took offense at Jesus. How dare you come here and try to lecture us, you illegitimate person? That label followed Jesus around. You see, the details around Jesus' birth were absent of perfection. There was no wrinkle-free experience for Jesus. In fact, after Jesus was born, he became a fugitive from Herod the Great. We talked about Herod the Great last week. He became a fugitive from Herod the Great. This is what the text says in Matthew chapter 2. It says this: when they had gone, the Magi who had come to celebrate the birth of Jesus, so they come to Bethlehem to see Jesus. When the Magi had gone, an angel of the Lord appeared to Joseph in a dream. "Get up," he said, "and take the child and his mother and escape to Egypt." Now, just hang on a second. This happens in the middle of the night. I would think that if if this were really God's son, that God would say, you know what, don't worry, Herod's coming after you, but I'm going to set up, kind of a band of angels around and they'll protect you. Nothing to worry about here. You're safe. I'll protect you. That's not what God does. He sends an angel to Joseph and says, Joseph, get out of Dodge now. No wrinkle-free experience here. The text goes on, it says this: stay there, the angel says, stay there in Egypt until I tell you, for Herod is going to search for the child to kill him. So he got up and took the child and his mother during the night and left for Egypt. They're down in Judea. They left for Egypt. Look, you don't travel in the ancient world at night. All right, there are no street lights. There are no rest stops. This is when the bad people come out. This is when the robbers and the thieves and the muggers come out. And yet, the angel says, I need you to get up right now because Herod's men are coming to look for the child and they will kill the child. You need to get out of Dodge. You need to get into a different country. Many scholars believe that Joseph and Mary were just teenagers. They knew no one in Egypt. If you've done any research at all, you know that the experience of a mother while she's carrying a child, that if she's under a lot of stress, that can have an impact on the child's development in the womb. There was all kinds of stress on Mary before Jesus was born. She had to make a trip from Nazareth all the way down to Bethlehem. Not something that you want to do when you're 8-9 months pregnant, right, ladies? On the back of a donkey. No paved roads. Right? No paved roads. I mean, this is stressful. And then that that in his early childhood, they had to flee for their lives. Do you think they were stressed out about that? You better believe it. Do you think that, rubbed off on Jesus a little bit? You better believe it. There's no wrinkle-free thing. This is an absence of perfection in Jesus' life, his experience. Do you realize that Jesus grew up in a blended family? You ever think about that? His siblings had the same mother, but they all had a different father. For those of you who have that kind of experience, some kind of a blended family experience, you know how difficult a blended family can be. Did you realize that Jesus grew up in a blended family? And in a blended family where the children have different parents, sometimes inevitably, there's a child that sometimes is accused of being the favorite child or the special child. You've ever experienced that? You said, well, James, I wasn't in a blended family, but I'm just telling you, my brother, he was the special child. My sister, she always got, my dad and all. That was Jesus. How would you like to be Jesus' brothers or sisters? How'd you like to measure up to Jesus, right? Like he was perfect. He never sinned. He never grumbled when he was asked to take out the garbage. He always had his homework done on time. He never missed class. He always did what his mother and father asked him to do, never, rolled his eyes, never did any of that. How would you like to have Jesus as your brother? Do you all realize that Jesus also grew up in a single parent family? You ever thought about that? After Jesus was age 12, there's no mention of his adopted father, Joseph. There's just no mention. In fact, at Jesus' crucifixion, when he was on the cross, it was his mother Mary that was at the cross, and it was his best friend John, the apostle, there. And Jesus looks down, because again, Jesus' brothers and sisters, they're nowhere to be found, right? Because they don't believe in him. He's on the cross. He looks down at his mother Mary, and he looks down at John, and he says, John, behold your mother. Mary, behold your son. Now, take care of her, John. Where's Joseph? He's nowhere to be found. What happened to Joseph? I don't know. Joseph was a carpenter. Perhaps he was killed in a work-related accident. Maybe Jesus even saw that. Maybe something fell over that Joseph was working on and it crushed him to death. We don't know. Or maybe Joseph just thought, you know what? I can't deal with all of this drama that my family is enduring. And maybe he abandoned his family. Maybe that's one of the reasons why Jesus' brothers and sisters did not like Jesus, because they felt like maybe Jesus' presence ran off their dad. Maybe he divorced Mary, we don't know. But we do believe that from about age 12 on, there was no father figure in Jesus' life. Just think about that. During his middle school years, during his pre-puberty years, no dad, no father figure. Those of you who have experienced a single parent family know how difficult that is. It's not easy, is it? There's certainly no perfection in that. But Jesus experienced that. Now, you say, well, James, why are we going through all these? Jesus knows what it was like, to be betrayed. Judas betrayed him. One of his closest people. What's the point in all of this? Here's the point. This is what the writer of Hebrews says. He says this. Since the children, he's talking about all people, since all people have flesh and blood, he too shared in their humanity. He too shared in their humanity. He didn't share in our glory. He didn't share in the best part of who we are or the easiest part of who we are. He shared in the most difficult aspects of life with us. He shared in our humanity, not in our glory. He shared in the difficult experiences of life with us. This is what it goes on to say in verse 17. For this reason, he had to be made like them, fully human in every way. Fully human in every way, in order that he might become a merciful, he understands. I get it, I understand. Yep, I've been there. I've experienced that. That he might be a merciful and faithful high priest in the service to God. That he has to be able to accurately represent us to his heavenly Father. He shared in our humanity in every way. And then it says in verse 18, because he himself suffered when he was tempted, he is able to help. He is able to help. He is able to help those who are being tempted. He knows what we're going through. He knows our struggles. Why? Because he experienced it himself. He had the limitations of humanity on himself. He knows. He experienced. He felt the frustration of human experience. He knows that. You see, here's the bottom line for today. Jesus understands us not because he is God, although, God knows all things. Jesus understands us not because he is God, but because Jesus is human. That's why.